Oh, there's a little sprocket at the top. Hello, you are live. Welcome. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Hi, William Price.
Hey,
Namaste.
everybody.
Yes, we have 10 people in the room already. That's great. Thank you guys for bearing with me on this technology that it had a glitch a couple weeks ago. I was just explaining to Andrea that there was a problem back in November where we cloned the event in order to make it to fix something. The people that are in charge of the webinar, they cloned it for me and they made it all work. And for some reason in January, I clicked delete on the wrong thing to delete and I deleted everybody. And that's why you guys needed to re-register for today's event and for the next 8 events because I accidentally deleted the link for everyone. I deleted the platform that we could all meet on. And welcome everyone. Welcome from London and Montana and Austin and Henrik, where are you? Are you in Germany or Denmark? Where are you from? And I just want to welcome Andrea Frase to our chapter 11 this week. Welcome, Andrea. Namaste.
Thank you, Bill. I'll go. Woo-hoo. To everybody. Lots
Uh,
of love.
welcome, Annika. Love being deleted. Yes, we definitely love the personal self being deleted. Just erase that sucker. Yeah. And how is the sound? We don't have any call-ins yet. I hope the call-in feature was working, but I don't see anybody that called in yet. And I'm really never sure which thing is going to work. Deletion was refreshing. And also, I want to mention that to everyone that there was a complaint about how much I use the Course in Miracles as a reference in this group, and I just want to acknowledge that. And I don't say complaint in the thing in terms that it's a bad thing, but there was a suggestion that I use it too much, and you guys are here to talk about the nature of consciousness and Rupert's book, and I really want to acknowledge that person as being right. The person that wrote me and said that I'm using the course a little bit too much. I am a course teacher and I do have a bias there, but that person is absolutely right that we are here to talk about the nature of consciousness and the chapters that are in this book. And maybe we're using the course a little bit too much in the dialogue. And so just I'm going to honor that myself. And if there's just something that's screaming at me to say, oh yeah, the course says that too, I'll just be real short and brief about it. But the truth of the matter is that we're talking about awareness and we're talking about consciousness. And even though I see similarities, I want to honor the purpose and the reason that we brought this book study group together to talk about Rupert's pointing because it is so brilliant and it is so spot on and it is so all illuminating. You just can't when the way Rupert puts the language of his pointing, it just makes it everything for me. And I totally resonated with it when I first found it. And I know that that's why you guys are here. So thank you for bearing with me in that. And then also just sort of be patient, bear with us a little bit if we do see some similarities in other traditions like A Course in Miracles or Rumi or Muji or Ramana Maharshi or Great Freedom or some other teachings that where someone wants to bring something in that's fresh and feels like it's connected. Uh, we'll also want to honor that too. So thank you all for being with us this week. The chapter 11, the White Radiance of Eternity. And you know what's funny about this chapter? It's the shortest chapter in the book, and it's rich like a piece of gold. It is so rich like a piece of gold. And before we get into this, I'm gonna ask Andrea to open uh, with her comments first. But before we do, I just want to pause with all of you and just give the space of presence, just in this quiet awareness. Let us all just acknowledge the space of presence. Because we are this light, we are this luminosity, we are omnipresent, omniscient. We are the presence of God. We are what God is. And it's so refreshing to acknowledge the truth of being. It's so refreshing to have so many around the world to that acknowledge the knowing presence of what we are, and that we know it. It's true. It's undeniable. And the thing that I love about Rupert is Rupert invites you in his pointing, in his 30 plus years of gathering and accumulating the understanding so that he delivers in such a beautiful way. We come to have the direct experience in what is called the direct path. We come to acknowledge the direct experience for our own self of what we are. And that just sings like it sings from the heavens because we all know it to be true, and it becomes our visceral experience. And I want to thank all of you for joining us on today's broadcast, and for you guys that are doing the replay. Thank you for joining us when you can join us in the way that you're able. And I just want to everyone please give a warm welcome to Andrea Frase. Welcome, Andrea. How are you?
Thank you, Bill. I'm perfect. Perfect. How's the sound for me, Bill? Is that okay?
The sound is good on my end. I'm
Okay.
not sure how it is for others. Can you guys just let me know how our sound check is? William Price, yeah, it's chapter 11, The White Radiance of Eternity. We're over halfway through the book already, and I'm so happy to get back into this content because it just enriches my soul when I read. Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
And we have one person, Henny, that is called in on the call in feature. And Henny, if you have any questions, you want to raise your hand, just press star two. And Vincent Candace is also joined us from Gainesville, Florida. If you want to raise your hand, it's star two. And what do you think about this chapter, Andrea? What are the highlights for you?
This chapter, like you said, is the shortest chapter in the book, but it points to exactly what's going on. And I had an incredible experience in this past week while I was working with all of this, of being that white radiance of eternity, not Andrea Frase, this form.
Nice.
And because I know that I am that white radiance of eternity, that's what all of us truly are. We're the consciousness. And Rupert said it so perfectly when we're wondering, questions about the body and all these things. He had a sentence on the second page of this. Let me see. That would be page 106. And we're in this objective experience, myself being the subject, but I am a perception in the mind of consciousness. Andrea is a perception. And in order for this infinite consciousness to have an objective experience, as it says in here, in order to know objective experience, unlocated dimensionalness awareness must assume location, place, or point
Yes.
from which it can view, know, or perceive objective experience, and the body is that location. Hello. I'm just a means for an experience of consciousness to have an objective experience. And this body and the mind, this infinite mind that is in this process with me, is also where the body resides. It's like,
yes,
whoo-hoo, so beautiful. It says, however, the body is not an object. It is an appearance in the mind.
right.
So, and it is that mechanism of the agency, or as I can say, means through which and as which awareness locates thus itself, thereby seeming to become a separate object of experience from whose point of view it can perceive the objective experience. That's it. I am a perception in consciousness. I am not real, so I can't go to this infinite mind, as I think I brought up last week, the last time we spoke. I called in.
You can't go to the finite mind.
Exactly, because the finite mind is sort of the collapsing or the assuming of the infinite mind in order to locate itself and have a subjective experience, an objective experience. So I am that location, and which is this finite mind, and within the finite mind, it's located itself in this body. So none of it is real. I'm perception, and I'm the mechanism through which infinite consciousness has this experience, and it as knowing itself as me, the subject, from the viewpoint of I'm this perception, the subject of the objects that I experience in the world. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So I'm like, so in this beautiful, I do have that experience. I do feel that it's been this dissolving. It's like Rupert used an, and it's in the last chapter. He said, the clouds. You can't have the clouds without the sky. So I'm the cloud in consciousness, and infinite consciousness is the sky, which I float through and change and morph or create rain or thunderstorms or whatever's going on in this experience. I'm the means for that experience to happen. I'm the location.
Yeah.
But I am not I'm not real. I'm just a perception. I'm no more real than the thought that flies through my mind, or a sensation that goes through this unreal body. Everything is perception. And what I love also, once he says that in the third paragraph down, it says, having abstracted a discrete, and this discrete is not discrete. It sounds like the same word, meaning, kind of hidden. But in Rupert's, he's very, very specific with his words. And I happen to love that about him, because discrete, even though it sounds the same, is spelled differently again. And it means separate, individual, or detach. So having abstracted, which is to pull away from and create a separate and individual object, which is this body, from an indivisible intimacy. And indivisible means it cannot be separated. So it's thinking that it's doing that, and yet it can't, because the pure white radiance of awareness, which I am, this is what shines through every experience. But the mind who's abstracted a discrete object from the indivisible intimacy, so it's saying it's doing something that can't be done, of pure knowing, thought, the one that thinks it can do that, the finite mind, has to name the substance out of which it is made. As such, matter could be defined as the material out of which everything outside awareness is supposedly made. So here's this beautiful experience that's known through pure consciousness. It's even, I don't know how to explain how there is no separateness other than I understand it. I understand that awareness is not separate from the experience of Andrea. In other words, Andrea is the means through which infinite consciousness is having the experience of Andrea in world as a subject-object experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In that.
And the way Rupert puts it in his workshops, that the infinite has to limit itself to have a finite experience. It has to cause itself to be limited in order to have an experience that seems to be less than its wholeness or less than its full potential.
Right. And it assumes a location.
Yes.
Doesn't mean it actually is the location.
Yeah. But
it assumes,
that really does give a foundation for the infinite, the infinite having the all-knowing. There's an unlimitedness that is able to limit itself to have a finite experience that is impossible.
Right. Well, that's what that sentence, having abstracted a discrete object from an indivisible intimacy of pure knowing, it thinks it's doing that. Yeah. And then, and what's so beautiful is that in the experience of having that subjective and objective experience, this consciousness can get so distracted and so focused in what it's experiencing that it can overlook the fact that it's awareness itself that's having the experience.
That's a human condition, because we've made up such a believable experience that we actually believe it, and we forget our true divine self. We forget our divine nature, and that's the whole human condition. And thankfully, writers like sages like Ramana and Yogananda, and teachers like Francis Lucille and Rupert's teachers, and all of the many that Jenny Beal can tell you are the traditions that have brought us to the direct path experience, and A Course in Miracles, and all these other illuminations of consciousness. Thankfully, we gave ourselves this book, and Ramana and Rupert and A Course in Miracles and Great Freedom. We've given ourselves all of these alarm clocks to put a limit on our amnesia, to put a limit on the hypnosis of the sleeping, what it would be called consciousness, or the Son of God sleeping. And now we're able to wake up. And what's cool, and I was mentioning this to you before we started the program, I am so grateful that the Bible is so wrong, because that's crazy land. I used to follow the Bible, and many of us did. That is so crazy, that because it excludes so many things that just, and it makes it, none of it makes sense. But even as
like it excludes God.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
The pure consciousness.
Well, it became it, it's the Santa Claus God. Oh God, please let me have this, or please do this, or don't do that. And it became this craziness. And that's why, 7/8 of the world didn't buy into the the Christianity thing. But thankfully, it's all wrong, and it's only better. It's better. And the cool part about it is that even though we come in thinking that we're this, there's a way back to source. There's a way back to the experience of our knowing, of our known being, of the being of spirit, of the being of oneness, of the thing that is common with all of us. And I the the experience that I have attained from my introduction to Rupert. Rupert's the first one that has ever brought me to the experience of knowing beyond the shadow of a doubt, knowing of the self through a direct experience of the being itself, that without any limits, I can have the direct experience of awareness, of presence, and it's so easy that we miss it. It's so easy. It's right here. It's the experience of awareness that everything, everyone, every living thing, including mosquitoes and flies and all the animal kingdom, and even the 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 world of trees and inanimate objects, they're all in having the same experience of awareness. Nothing is separate from the experience of being aware of itself.
And that's why I'm so happy awareness actually truly never forgot itself. We
Yes.
appeared to be forgetting ourselves, but yet it was always hiding in plain sight because it's the knowing through which all the experience happened. So it never disappeared, it never left, it never went anywhere. It didn't forget itself. It never forgot the perception of me and the fact that it was enjoying this beautiful objective experience which it wanted us to have. So it
Yes.
assumed that location. It assumed a finite mind. It was willing to do all these things for the experience, knowing that none of the experience would ever change it in any way. So
Yes.
why not have the experience? And it makes living life so much more fun because we just enjoy the gift of this perception of this infinite source assuming a location known as Andrea, who lives in the mind and consciousness of this beautiful, pure consciousness, constantly this white, radiant eternity, which I am. And it's like it says, on page 107, and Rupert says this all the time, which is all that is known is knowing. And I see everything, no matter what it is, as just correcting the errors in my perception. Because when I forgot when finite mind started believing that it had abstracted itself and had made itself this separate form, and in my experience, that's not true. And I had this amazing experience this week where I was just sitting with all of what I've been reading and pulling together and sitting with just closing my eyes. And I do this thing where I let awareness, my I am, speak to me. And I always have it speak out loud. And it has a different voice. It comes with different language, and it's English, and sometimes it's not. But it is just this beautiful experience speaking through this location, Andrea. And what I experienced a few days ago was just as it was speaking, my eyes were closed, and I was recording its conversation with me. And what I was aware of is that I had become this infinite emptiness. And I was full of emptiness. And as I was saying it, finite mind's going, how can emptiness be full? But I am full of emptiness. And it's so, I I'm explaining it in words, but it was, and the more I felt that emptiness, the more emptiness I felt, the more full I felt, the more everything, which allowed me to really see that in that vastness, I can allow all things, embrace all things, trust all things, and they dissolve in the emptiness from which they were created. Consciousness is completely, abundantly full and empty, except for, say, love.
Yes. Yes.
And I had never gone past my mind that far before in the finite mind. It was, I'm still sitting with how beautiful that is, and that with the vastness of it, everything is possible to come into it. Because anything you allow, anything I've ever allowed into myself never changed me. I've always remained that vast, empty, beautiful, loving space. Mm-hmm. That anything that isn't love just dissolves away in it, because love is what transforms all things. It's like, Rupa was saying, that you're looking at the words on the page, but it's the white paper that allows the words to be there.
Yes.
It's that pure white radiance of eternity that allows me to have this experience.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's so sweet. It's so sweet. It's so fun. And anything that ever happened in my life that may have felt, the finite mind may have judged it as right or wrong, and because it likes to do that. And anytime a judgment comes in, I know I am not this empty space. I know something's trying to fill that space with what I would, which doesn't feel as comfortable as love to me. Yeah. So, and I feel like my finite mind is dissolving the more deeply I go into being with this beautiful, radiant self.
Yes.
And not be attached to Andrea. Even when I prepare to come and really be with everyone with these gatherings that we do, which I'm so grateful to do, Bill. Thank you for inviting me to do this with you. It's really, it's so beautiful. I could just cry. I mean, really, we are so incredible. And to have the conversation and not be attached or to anything that's everything is perfect. Even the things that the mind would say or wrong or not right or this or that, they're perfect, and they all brought us to this moment. So I'm grateful for all of it.
Well, it becomes perfect. It's always perfect, but it becomes more evident that it's perfect as you open your mind, as the mind opens. And you have the clarity of understanding by the pointing of Rupert. Rupert, like, he gives shortcuts, he gives all of us shortcuts.
Oh, yeah.
And when you read his words.
That's why we needed a short chapter.
When you read his words, it's like drinking in the nourishment of understanding. It's just drinking in, and it's like you can keep drinking it. It's like you can keep drinking it and drinking it. And he has such a way of giving the different ways of knowing the experience and then being the experience, that it becomes. Then you walk away with the ability to laugh in what may have disturbed you terribly in the experience of the finite self, when the person is having an experience of a relationship issue or health issue or money or disappointments or things. The more that you come into this place of this understanding of clarity, the more you're able to shift back into the experience of the awareness. And if you can abide there as the experience of awareness, watching the things bubble up or watching the events like a passing cloud, if you can hold yourself just by being still, and that's why be still and know that I am God, be still and know the infinite self, and then everything that rises in front of the infinite self, it is being dissolved, or the illusion of the experience will dissolve back into the knowing of it. And by definition, you become more light, you become more of a light being. And those things that are finite, those experiences that do distract us or do cause us to lose our peace, they become less and less and less, because the light becomes more and more evident of itself as your experience.
That's beautifully said, Bill. And it is when you're, when this coming into awareness, I am is that portal. It's the intersection between world and source. It's the one who knows the world and source. It knows itself and it knows the experience. And so when we're in that I,
Did you say I am?
I am.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
I am is the intersection,
Okay.
where source and world intersect. It's the I am. It's knowing itself. This pure radiance, being aware of itself as itself, and also knowing the experience and knowing that it is not the experience or the subject or the objects or the things in it. It is always itself. It's always this radiance that allows it to happen. And it's this, when I was coming from my conversation with I am this week, and I was having this infinite, vast, empty, full experience, when I opened my eyes, somebody said, can you have the experience in the body? I did have the sense that my body was floating where I was. And I also want to say that sometimes we can, we can have the idea in the finite mind that only sitting and being quiet and still is the only way to have the experience of awareness. And as I've gone through this process, as I continue in this process of awakening into my full awareness, it can be done anywhere, at any time. And to me, that's the ultimate, is to always be that, no matter what experience I'm experiencing, to be the awareness, knowing of that experience all the time, whether I'm driving the car, whether I'm riding a bicycle, whether I'm floating around the top of water, seeming, in this beautiful perception. I mean, I'm in God's dream. God's dreaming me. How beautiful is that? And so it can have these beautiful dreams of riding in a kayak with me in the summertime over this water out in the open spaces and filming things. And it's having so much fun through this experience called Andrea, this perception.
Yes.
And
and it's God experiencing itself.
Yes.
As Andrea, as Bill, Annika, or David, and
no separation of that.
No separation. And we have, I don't know if you found it, were you able to find the chat? Because we have a few comments I want to pick up on the chat board.
I did see them.
Chat has that rectangular box with the 3 dots on it. And Annika says, but it still is consciousness itself, assuming, making up a story, and this sense of separation, never not itself, not we doing it. Yes, and that's Annika, as you know, is very clear in her understanding of the direct path and Rupert's pointing, and she just is making an emphasis on the point that it's never not we doing it. It's always consciousness. It's always having the experience. It's actually consciousness that's having the experience, but it's but it has to forget itself for a few minutes or for a few moments in order to have the finite experience. And I think that's just so brilliant. And I also want to mention something here that David Spector said. He said the Bible is not so wrong. I totally agree, David, and I have a lot of respect and love for the Bible, but I have to say I'm so happy that it's wrong. Uh, but it does have a lot of points like you make here that says the kingdom of heaven is within. Yes, this that not the body, but the kingdom of heaven is within. Within means below the ego level of belief that we are limited and doing things. Bliss is at first found within, below the level of illusion and belief. Yes, totally. I the one thing that I would say though is that a lot of people, and myself included, when I used to meditate, I used to think that I was finding this no space or this place of blank mind to experience, to have some kind of a God or within experience. And it's more subtle than that. It's more obvious than even the quiet space, because if you only go to the quiet space, you miss the awareness of the quiet space, which is the experience of knowing. It's the experience of being that is aware of itself. You miss that if you think that you're finding yourself in the quiet. So but as far as the Bible goes, I'm very grateful for the Bible, because the Bible and my search for what I am is what brought me to the understanding of knowing what I am. And even though it was a temporary detour, it was a place that I actually I was a Bible thumper for over 25 years until I found the course in miracles, and I'm just so grateful that the Bible held me into a place of searching for all those years until I could really find the truth. Because it if you get stuck in the Bible, you're stuck in duality, man, and you're lost. You're lost in duality if you're stuck in the Bible. So I'm grateful for the teachings that are available to us now, and not that we're not stuck where we were 100 years ago. And Dee had a question that she looks like she got answered by David and Annika, but I'm just going to read your question here. Dee, she said, "Is experience of awareness knowable as an object, but as felt experience in the body mind?" Uh, I have an answer for that. I'm going to let you answer it first.
There are no objects. It's all perception. And it feels real, but I mean, I go, oh, this is real, but it's only real in the perception.
Well, but she makes a point here.
Or maybe I'm not understanding what she's asking.
Is the experience of awareness knowable, not
Yes.
as an object, but as a felt experience in the body mind?
Well, that's what it uses. This is the means of how it experiences that.
Yes,
But
yes.
it never becomes that.
Well, it is. Is the experience knowable? Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
The experience,
It's known through the awareness.
the awareness is aware of itself.
Yes, and it's also through awareness is how experience is known. There's no experience without awareness.
Yes, but it's a kind of a funny question here, because she says as an object, but as a felt experience. And that's kind of a crossover, because awareness knows itself, but it also knows feeling. It's not separate from feeling, but it's not the feeling. Awareness is a known experience of itself that seems, I feel, it seems like it's a felt experience, but it's a known experience that modulates itself as a feeling.
Yes. Yeah, it's what's another way to It's that locating itself in the body for the experience of feeling, sensation, perception, thoughts. It's having that experience without being any of it. And so, yes, you can feel it through the fact that it assumes a location of a body. That's how it does it, but it doesn't mean that it's real.
Yeah, well, that's not what she's saying. She's not saying
Okay.
that it's real, but she was really referring to the feeling of it. And I think
Yeah.
Annika gave a great answer. Dee had another question. Thank you for these great questions, Dee, because they really do cause you to say, okay, well, does this work that way, or is this how the experience is working? And Dee said, I understand we can experience awareness anytime, but can it be known as a feeling expansion in this particular body mind? And I want to let Annika's answer come forth. Annika said, yes, D. Lynn, Rupert also has these body meditations, these body meditations, which make the felt experience available. Yes. So we do have but it's so cool because it's the infinite being also again refracting itself into having an experience of itself as an infinite being. It's like, I mean, we get to have the cake and eat it too, and the vanilla ice cream. We get to have everything.
Well, in the consciousness is, it's in which all experience appears, with which all experience is known, and out of which all experience is made. Yeah.
Yes.
So there's your cake to eat it too.
Yes. Yes.
It's appearing in it, it's the knowing of it, and it is what it's made out of.
Yes. Yes. And Bill William Price would like to mention the poem that's at the very first paragraph. I love this poem too. Thank you, Bill, for bringing this up. In the poem, the Adonai, an an elegy on the death of, and I'm not sure if I pronounce that correctly, elegy on the death of John Keats. The poet Percy Bysshe Shelley wrote, life, like a dome of many colored glass, stains the white radiance of eternity. The word stains in this context means colors rather than blemishes, borrowing its imagery from stained glass windows. Just as a stained glass window colors the light passing through it, so if you can just imagine that the stained glass colors the light that passes through it, revealing the potential inherent in the light itself. So experience or the finite mind refracts the light of pure knowing into the apparent multiplicity and diversity of objective experience, thus bringing part of the infinite potential into the finite existence. And that's what we all do. That's how the mind, that's our experience. That's the human condition where the light that is passing through, I guess, consciousness, or passing, I don't,
Through the finite mind?
through the finite mind. Is that true? Did
That's
that?
well, the finite mind is what is colors things because it
So
has its own perceptions, right?
yeah,
And it wanted to have that experience
yeah. When I think
of
the finite mind, I think of something that's dense, and that's why I
oh,
like. I mean, that's just my own thing. I like using the terms that Rupert uses, where he uses a prism, where it colors itself into a diversity of, like, an Andrea, a William, an Annika,
mhm.
a D, all of these different personalities. These personalities are sort of like this coloring of the pure knowing, so that it can express itself in the individual way that it does the individuation of experience that's so diverse, knowing at the same time that even though it looks like it's a diversity of experience, it all refracts, it all comes back to the source, which is the the awareness of where we're all common, where we're all the oneness of the presence of God. D. Lynn says, for instance, this book and the CDs with 24 meditations, Transparent Body, Luminous World. And let's see, I'm trying to understand that comment. D. Lynn. Oh, no. That came from Annika. I'm sorry. Yeah. D. Lynn, for instance, this book and the CDs with 24 meditations. Yeah. The I'm not sure how that fits into what D. Lynn said. But then Henrik said, Bill, this is very interesting. Is it possible to make these webinars downloadable? Actually, Henrik, I'm glad you mentioned that. I am in the process right now of uploading these videos in the classroom that I have online, where the cameos of A Course in Miracles are, and where I've recording all the workbook lessons of A Course. I have another course called the Readings of the Nature of Consciousness, and all of these videos are going to be free and downloadable, and I'm in the process of uploading them right now. I should have them started within a week. I just got back from Mexico, and as many of you know, that I came back with a little bit of a Mexican flu bug, and I'm past that now, and I'm back in the driver's seat of uploading things and doing audio recordings and doing things with A Course in Miracles, and also I teach A Course in Miracles. So I'm doing a teaching this Friday in the Friday group, and in between all of that, I'm going back and I've uploaded all of these recordings into YouTube, and I'm just starting to categorize them, catalog them, so that we have them available starting from the first recording that we had with Rupert, and then with each of our guests that are on this book study. And I want to thank you for bringing that up, but that will be available. I would say give me to the 1st of February, and I'll have a link for you guys. I'll send it out so that you can start to watch the old recordings, and they'll be there for all time. And yeah.
So I wanted to point out on page 106, since there are some questions about experience and body, that just under the 3 asterisks there, it says it's easy to check out this experience. No one has ever experienced or could ever experience a static, discrete, that's again a separate object called a body. In our actual experience, the body is a flow of sensations and perceptions. And even that is not right. A discrete sensation or perception is never found. We can never freeze a sensation or a perception and extract it from the indivisible unity of experiencing or knowing in the same way that we seem, relatively speaking, to be able to isolate an object in space.
Yes.
All there is to the experience of the body is sensation and perception. And all there is to sensation and perception is the experience of sensing or perceiving. And only the substance present in sensing and perceiving is knowing or awareness. That is, in our actual experience, the body is an appearance in the mind, and there is no mind, and all there is to mind is knowing. It is thought alone that abstracts a solid, discrete object called a body that it considers separate from knowing.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Andrea, because it does bring you to, it's another way of describing the how we have experience.
Mm-hmm.
Another way of describing, and this is what I love about this kind of description, because when you can when you can isolate the sensation to a sensation instead of a label, it reduces the pull that the sensation has on the mind that wants to make it real,
Yep.
that that wants to make it a real experience. And pain, severe pain, it seems to have a very strong hold on our experience when we're in under a real, like a body, like a full body ache, or a real bad toothache or a terrible headache. It seems like that's what we are. And it takes a trained mind, I feel. It takes a trained focus of 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 awareness to be able to shift yourself sufficiently back to uh, to being, to the awareness of the sensation, to to cause it to not, and not to make it do something, and not to push it away, but you have to
Oh,
really have a trained experience to be able to come back into alignment of the self, of the being, so that it's not such a strong hold on your experience.
yeah, I think that's beautiful, Bill. I also think that it's true with emotions, the sensations and the feelings. And there are so many times a feeling will come up and, oh, I don't want to have that feeling, or I don't want to have that thought. And this is that wanting to push it away. And what I found works the best for me is to just be aware that the thought is there, notice what it's asking and how it would like to pull me with it, take me into its story and down the rabbit hole, or a feeling that feels uncomfortable. Someone, something upsetting happens. What I find is my experience is that to sit with it, to let it be there. I don't have to make anything go away because it's not real to begin with. And when I just sit with it and I allow it to, and I embrace and trust that, and remind myself, this is not what I am, it's what I'm experiencing. And I sit with it until it's finished. What I always find is it has a gift to lay at the altar of my heart. And if I don't go through it, I never receive the gift. So, and the gift is always more of my awareness, more of my sense of a deeper sense of loving self. And whatever that was that just wanted to be experienced, it's, I can allow that because I'm not that thing. It's not going to change me, but I can change that. I can dissolve it and see the gift in it by just allowing it.
Yeah, yeah, that was beautiful. That's a beautiful way to use words
Mm-hmm.
to, to bring you into the experience,
Mm-hmm.
and also the awareness or the knowing of the experience, which brings you back into your divine self.
It allows that divine self to dissolve it because
Yeah,
it's the divine self. It's the love that transforms everything, and I am that. So
yeah,
when I sit with myself as that and keep and reminding myself that I am that is, and experience, I'm here for the experience, so I'm going to have the experience of, you know, not every experience feels like, oh, hallelujah. At some of those experiences, like, oh my God, I
yeah.
don't think I can do this. And it's like, but yes, you can, because you can do anything.
Yes, yes. And this is what Rupert said on page 107. He says, we do not have to rely on the evidence of science to know the nature of the world. And here it
Mm-hmm.
is, what you just said. We need only rely on experience, the sole legitimate arbiter of truth or reality. And that's what we have. That's once you have an understanding of how consciousness shows up as me, as you, as the activities of experience, it makes life a whole lot better experience for us. Yes.
Because there's less and less of something coming in to pull you out of that, and there's more and more to hold you in who you really are. And
Yeah.
so the I don't have to be afraid of the feelings. I don't have to be afraid of the thoughts. I don't have to, wish everything away or push it away. Like that's what I used to do and escape in some way. It's just gonna gain more energy. And so to dissipate it is to just be with it. I came for the experience. I located myself as Andrea, and I perceived this mind and this body to have an objective experience and sensations and feelings and to have all of it. So it's like, let's do it. Let's have it, whatever it is, and transform through that.
Yeah.
Because it's, as I said, it's, on the other side of all of it
Yes.
is this beautiful gift left at the altar of my heart. And it's just more love, more emptiness, more fullness,
Yeah. And Annika
more
says,
awareness. Yeah.
he has a beautiful statement here that says, like a beam of light shining through a polished diamond, spreading rainbow colored rays of light, we are all diamonds.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I like to wear these. To remind me that I'm light and refraction and rainbows and just there's so many beautiful ways we can just constantly remind ourselves of how amazing this wonderful experience that we've been gifted to ourselves, to this awareness, to
Yes.
experience.
Yes. Yes. And Annika says it is great to know it, but it becomes beyond doubt when really experienced.
Yes.
Yes. And then David Spector says the training of the mind is actually an unlearning, a dropping of beliefs and conditioning. Yes. I mean,
Mm.
for me, uh, the undoing or the unlearning allows the truth of what I am to fully express itself un hampered by the mind that thought it was a person. So when I, Bill, get out of the way, or the mind that thinks it knows something moves out of the way, then that infinite self is able to express itself, just like this chapter is describing, where the the pure knowing is able to unimpeded, is able to express itself more fully as the knowing of the experience.
Yeah,
That's
and sometimes I'm
that's my
sorry, but yeah,
yeah.
sorry. It's like just stops, coming out of me. I apologize if I interrupt. I can't help myself sometimes.
Well, we're just trying to express ourselves here in a way, and it's very exciting. This is a very exciting content that brings us to understand these ideas and more fully have the experience of being the light, the luminous light, the love that we are, the expression of God's love, which is us, and to be in the world and know that we're not really of the world. And that's why these things are so exciting to talk about, because we're talking about something that is, this is pretty new within the last 25 years. These ideas are really fully developed so that we can have not only the idea about it, but we can have the living, breathing experience of consciousness itself.
Yeah, and I feel my experience is that doing practices or those practicing something or trying to make something happen to me keeps me locked in an old paradigm of thinking that I'm something that I'm not.
Yeah.
And so moving into allowance rather than to practice, just the word allow feels so opening to me, and trusting that, along the way, I notice, like, I'll say, like, a little breadcrumb or like a little spark or a little opening of something, and some people say, "Well, I got the crumbs. Those are the crumbs," and I'm like, "No, but if you get enough little crumbs along the way, and you realize that each crumb is a little um, piece of light, of awareness, that when you put it all together, you've got a beautiful loaf of bread that you can slice and have this beautiful conversation with, and have a meal that is so incredible to just devour this beautiful knowing experience."
Yes. Yes.
That, because, oh, it was really crummy. And I say to everybody, I said, "Oh, I think the crumbs are just those perfect little pieces of light that I just keep accumulating." And I've had so many beautiful meals, this beautiful loaf of bread from all those crumbs. They had to come from something. And
I'm
yeah.
going to close our meeting. We're at the top of the hour. Thank you all for being here. And thank you,
Yes.
Andrea, for being our guest this
Thank you
week.
for having me. All of
You're welcome.
you.
And next week, we're going to have Annika Brochus, and she is going to look at the chapter 12 with us, the focusing of consciousness. Thank you all for being with us this week. I love you. I bless you. And I thank God for you. Bye bye, everyone. Namaste.
See
Bye.
you. See you.